Welcome back. So we're wrapping up Women's Month with a conversation that I hope will inspire you as much as it's inspired me. Ruth Naledi Moleo was the first black female photographer to be employed by a South African newspaper and later became the first black female photo editor of the nation's top 3 newspapers. Born in Netherlands in 1968, she stumbled upon a camera at home at the age of 13 and would take photographs for her sister to develop in the dark room where she worked. Her career went on to span decades and captured some of the most defining moments of the 1990s as South Africa transitioned from apartheid to democracy. She joins me now in studio to reflect on her career. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
It's quite the journey. I think one of the things that that really stood out for me when I looked at your biography is that you picked up a camera and then you actually asked your father for a camera. Was there at that point, and talk to me about, you know, the love for photography, where it started, and if it felt like this is something a little girl should be doing?
Thank you for the opportunity. And, well, I mean, I think when I picked up the camera, for me, it was a hobby at home.
Yeah.
Just taking pictures of everyone, you know. And I forgot about it. And then later in years, after 86, and then I wanted to do something. But I knew I didn't want to sit in an office and do something. I knew that I was very artistic. And then I enrolled at the Alex Art Center. And then later went to Market Photo Workshop under David Goldblatt. And when I asked my dad to buy me a camera, I mean, you know, I think he's my biggest fan. He never said no. And yeah, and that's where it started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to me about getting into the newsrooms, though, and how particularly difficult that was. I mean, I think about journalists that, black journalists, of course, that were working in the early 90s and late 80s, and a lot of them have talked about the difficulty of actually, I suppose, finding your space and your voice in a workplace that was previously very male and very white at that point. And at that point, you're entering the space as well. I
didn't have much difficulties, and because when I was employed at the Mail and Guardian by then, I was employed by Kevin Carter, you know, and then there were a few times that I had to go to Soweto to photograph the war, you know, and I remember going to, you know, going down Mofolo and then going to White City, and then I just saw dead bodies. Sure. And I couldn't photograph that. And then we went to the house where, I mean, that image is still in my head. We found I saw a child hacked, you know, and I didn't. And I went back to the office and I said, I don't think I want to do that kind of photography. I'd rather do, there's more to war than, you know, all other things. And I said to him, you know, there are more interesting things in Soweto.
Yes.
I live there, or in a township that, you know, are more relevant to be told as stories, you know? Yeah. Positive stories.
And that's what I want to do, actually. I picked out a few pictures that, if you don't mind, that I wanted to see myself. And we're going to bring some up now on the screen. But I want to bring up the first one. Number one, of course, in my list is this picture. I mean, this stood out for me. Little girls dancing, performing. Talk to me about the era and really what this picture said when you took it.
I don't remember the year exactly, but this was a project sponsored by BMW through the arts. And this was shot in Braamfontein Theatre, just outside. So at that time, you know, there were so many activities. So this was a group of dancers around the townships. So yeah, they were performing, sponsored by BMW.
Yeah, for me it just, you know, what the picture says to me is in townships there is all this beauty as well beyond all the challenges that are being seen. I like this one. I want to bring up the second one. Of course, this is our gogos sitting together. I don't know why, but this just gave me, and it's going to come up in a moment. This is the second picture. This gave me just warm and fuzzy feelings. Take a look at that.
during I think in the late 90s, when my parents retired and then they had to get their old age pension, I used to take them to get their pay. So this was shot in Mzumhlope, and then I used to queue with my mom and dad,
yes.
you know, just to queue. I've been part of the community. I've been part of telling our own stories, you know. For me also, it represents my mother in a queue. Represents my, you know, my grandmother or whoever it is in the queue. So, and then I think also photography, it's not about showing the expression, the image, or how you feel, but also how the moment of the three women, you can see these are old women. You know, the shoes are old, the hands are old, you know. So it doesn't really have to be a face.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And already just looking at the picture, you can tell it's elderly women that are queuing for something. And it speaks about just the hardship sometimes that our mothers have to go through just to get the bare minimum, and how they do it gracefully nonetheless. I think this one really, you know, was a gorgeous one. Let's take a look at this one. You said you didn't want to cover the war in Soweto, but you did capture some of the action, certainly. In this image. Explain this one for us.
Well, this is not, I mean, this is like your daily life. I think this was a time before Pick It Up. And this way, like, you know, where we used to have like the iron dustbins where, you know, just daily activities of things that are happening in the township. This is like positive stories, you know? And I think I was visiting my sister, and then I saw these guys were coming, and I shot this. This is one of my favorite photographs also.
Really?
Yep.
I do remember these old tins, and you're taking us back to such a time. Growing up in Alex, these tins were right outside of the home, and actually one of my uncles
right at the gates.
Right at the gates, and I have quite the story with one of these tins actually. One of my uncles put me in one of these dustbins in the early 90s when police sprayed tear gas in our homes.
Wow.
So that's what those bins represent to me, and that's why this picture also stood out. Let's show this one. You know, when we talk about poverty in our homes, we forget that there's still loving homes. Talk to me about this one.
This was shot in Limpopo, circa, I think, 94. I mean, that time I used to like to wander with my camera, just walk around and tell stories that I see, you know, document the daily lives of ordinary people, people that I, you know, I connect to. I remember myself going to my grandmother's house, and we used to make fire on the ground. So this is also part of me, of saying, you know, through poverty, through whatever, people live, and this is their daily life, you know. So, and I think sometimes it's not the glamour and the. I actually want to live that kind of life again.
You do.
I do.
The simplicity.
Simplicity.
Where love is felt.
Yes. And then where there is no, you know, pollution, nothing, and then you go chasing chickens outside, you know?
Yeah. Because for me, it spoke to simplicity, family, and everyday lives. That even in poverty, people don't see themselves that way. They are loving families. I think that was beautiful. Yeah. I had to wrap up with this one. This is this one. I mean, obviously one of the most iconic artists that we've had on the continent. But you took such a beautiful picture. Is that Salif Keita?
That's Salif Keita.
Yeah.
This was shot in Mega Music in Newtown during one of the concerts there. I mean, he used to frequent Johannesburg, South Africa. And I think also for me being a journalist or fellow journalist by that time, you know, you're in control. You can ask your subject or the person that you photograph whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I think during that time I got the most great images of people that I met.
Yeah. Is it intentional, the black and white style?
Yes, it's intentional.
Yeah.
I always like to say this, I see my world in color, but I interpret it in black and white.
That sounds so beautiful. It sounds so beautiful. Look, it is such a pleasure having you in studio with us, and I really hope that there are young women that are watching right now and thinking, oh, there's something I can contribute to, a career that you've opened the doors up for and something they can do as well. Anything coming up? What are the upcoming projects?
2 shows next week. There's one at the Market Theatre. It's called... Sorry, I need to look
That's
up.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Look it up. We want to go there. We want to be there at the Market Theatre for the show.
Okay, there's also one coming for F&B Art Show, exhibiting under Goodman Gallery.
Yes.
It's called... yeah, sorry, I've been so busy.
It's okay, we understand.
It's called the GIF at the Goodman booth, and there's part of an exhibition called Structures and Past and Present.
And dates?
F&B actually it's next week on the 4th, I think.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
And
Well,
then the one, yeah.
We'll look it up and then I'll share the details as well at the end of the show with the viewers. How's that?
Thank you so much.
Okay, it's been such a pleasure having you in studio. Thank you so much for speaking to us and for inspiring young female photographers this Women's Month.
Thank you so much.